The following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff, management, ownership of the station. Jay and Janine are expressing their own opinions, and such is not a substitute for psychological or mental health advice. If you are experiencing an emergency, please hang up and call 911.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show, where we're talking everything personal development, coaching, health, and the law. I'm your host, Jay, here with co-host Janine.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Please join us on Facebook, where we can be found at the Momentum Mindset Show. And if you want to call in and be part of the show, we would love to hear from you. It's 888-565-1470. And if being on live radio is not your thing, no problem. Send us your comments and we will interact with you on Facebook.
Let's create some momentum.
And welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show. It's Friday afternoon, and I'm your host, Jay Farrow.
And I am Janine Davis. Welcome, everybody. It is Friday yet again.
And again, we're facing a storm. I guess it's out there, South Florida. You can't get away from these things.
It's the season.
It is the season.
For everything being kicked up and churned and burned.
And it's Friday the 13th, and I'm like, wow, it's Friday the 13th. It's a full moon, and there's a tropical storm or something like that that's, again, bearing down on the Bahamas. And I just want to just say that I've seen a lot of things on Facebook lately and a lot of fundraisers for the Bahamas. If you haven't, get involved. There's a lot of things out there that you can. I've heard some really cool things that people are doing. But, unfortunately, one of the things that I've seen that, it doesn't look like our government's helping out. It's like crazy. So, anyway, I've just been seeing a lot of people, so I want to acknowledge everybody on Facebook that has been doing something, and I've seen a lot of positive things out there for people just taking it upon themselves. And I read a really interesting, or part of an interesting piece yesterday on Facebook about individual responsibility as it comes to changing this planet, and individual responsibilities or accountability for cleaning up your own environment. And it was a powerful piece about accountability. And I think that's where we want to start today because, right before we got here, there was some stuff that happened in the office. And, it's stuff that I get to own first, and that takes a while for me to digest. But I want this show always to be about, hey, we've got to check in from exactly where we're at. I would like to have not even shown up today, to be honest with you. I was just in my car downstairs. I was like, you know what, I don't have it this week. And that's the reason why we have the show. So, because this is not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not what life is about. And so what this weekly check-in is really about, when the stuff hits the fan, who are you in those moments? I say a lot that starting out a journey, with all the hype and the excitement and the desire for change and hope and all the stuff that exists in the beginning of a journey is one thing. But what happens 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, a month from now, when that initial excitement isn't enough to keep you going? Because it happens many, many times.
So it's interesting that you say that, because I follow someone on Instagram that wrote something really powerful the other day that said, when motivation wanes, that's when discipline becomes job one. Because these are the times, and what Jay and I are go through on a consistent basis at the law firm specifically, because it is it's a business that is based on timelines and courts and deadlines, and it's super serious stuff, and the judges are no joke. And when that part falls off, it's really, really challenging. And so it's been the discipline of the calendar. It's been the discipline of the timeline. It's been this. And when we fall off, we really feel it. And it's scary because this stuff is really serious. Jay shared last week that he was terrified to practice law for years because there were so many mistakes at first. He had made so many mistakes, and his the attorneys above him were merciless on him. I get that. I get how terrifying it is to practice when every period counts, when every day that you blow a deadline is like a nail in the coffin, and how there really is no excuse for error. And it's a really hard place to live in. It's the margin for error is very, very small, particularly when you're practicing in federal court, as we are with our large case. So things come up for us on a consistent basis where we're bumping up against this. And, we think that we've exhausted what it would take. New people come in, new people, ideas, whatever, and it falls into a similar cadence. So it's really a frustrating process, really. Like, sometimes I feel like we're at a casino, like they say that there's so many eyes on people at the casino that actually nobody's watching. The security is actually nobody's really watching because there's too much to look at, and so sometimes I feel like that we've got so many people who should, could, would know or ask powerful questions, and we just don't. And it's a very disheartening, gut-wrenching, terrifying experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do you want me to say? But yeah, I mean, this is the business, and this is why. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I talk about the chair that I sit in. It's a heavy, hot chair, because it's not just this stuff. It's not just that you're responsible for your own deadlines. You're actually responsible for the other side's deadlines
Yeah.
in court.
Right.
So it's not like you can just. It's not just one
You
side.
can't point a finger and say, well, they didn't do it. That's not an excuse.
So in the case that we're talking about, there's blame on both sides of the fence of who didn't do X, Y, and Z today, and we move on and we fix it. But at the same time, I like to check in with part of this is like, you feel the suck. I mean, this is just what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
and you just feel into that, and I got to tell you, it does affect me. I mean, and it's not just that, but we have, I don't know, literally things going around in the world today. I mean, on the entire planet, we have the tentacles of our cases are now in I don't know, 4 continents, and from all being orchestrated from
One office.
one head office.
Yeah.
So
It's it's a little bit of and again, this isn't we don't see ourselves here the first time. So I think the shock for us is, how do we keep getting here? Like, so many things go right, and then this one thing, it comes into our space, and I think that it takes the wind out of our sails sometimes, because we are so good at so many things. I mean, the writing that has come out of this office this week. I mean, I was literally proofreading a complaint yesterday, and I was enthralled in something that otherwise I would have thought would be death by paper cuts. It was one of the best, most beautifully well-crafted pieces of complaints that I've ever seen. And I've now made it a habit to read more things than even I share with Jay. But so I have an idea of what they look like. So it's a lot of pride, also in really backbreaking work for the legal team and orchestrating all of it and all of the moving parts. Spent a couple of nights this week, late into the night, making sure that everything gets to where it needs to go and things are served overseas and different things. So it certainly does take a team, but it's a little disheartening when you work this hard and you blow something as simple as a deadline. So it's kind of a punch in the gut today. On Friday the 13th, with the full moon, and with another storm kicking up. So it's just a lot of energy, and everybody individually going through what they go through.
And here's the after you get the sting of something like this in your business, and then you're sitting there in the chair, and it's a Friday afternoon, and you have the whole weekend in front of you. And my whole thing is like, okay, what is the possibilities that I see in this? That's what the growth mindset requires of me right now in this moment, is to feel what I feel. That's not going away. And then look into, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and what do I get to add? I mean, what didn't work was disconnection. What didn't work was lack of presence.
Right.
And then what do I get to add? This is the thing. It's like I go through my own human experience where it's just like I really just don't I don't care. I just want to not do this right now. But that's what I did for a long time. I didn't do it. I didn't go through something like this. I didn't go through, okay. And you know what's interesting is, like, you do something so well. You do a lot of things so well. And then it's the little thing that didn't happen that catches your attention. Because there's so much, as Janine was just sharing. I mean, I read something today that was, and I wrote somebody about it. I said, this is the best piece of work that my office has ever sent out, ever. And there's the win of that. I mean, just reading what's been put together. And I had a quote today about creating art from many other people's contribution to the art. And I was like, that's really what we've done. So there's a lot to celebrate tonight. It's not, it's
not catastrophic, but I think that what is scary is that when you turn, it could very well be catastrophic. And actually, we don't even know if it is or it isn't. But my point is, like, you've got to be on all the time. That's what this profession demands. It demands being on all the time. And yeah, I mean, that's what it is. And, like, we can pretend it's not, can pretend, but the reality is that it requires that you be on point, only all the time, very, very basic things.
Yeah. And right now, it's like I have, some people write me and some people think that I'm so good. Some thinking people like I don't have a bad day, or that I don't go through my periods where I want to, I don't know,
run for the hills.
Not run for the hills. I just rather just take a sledgehammer to a building or something like that. Just
sure.
So, anyway, so the focus is like, where do you go from here? It's like, all right, now it's starting to, like, filter out. I got that out my chest. This is the process of just letting it out on the table, and now looking to grow from it. I mean, looking at what do we still what do we have? I mean, we have something that we can fix, which is so we have something that actually. That it's not just showing up here. It's like, where else is this showing up in my life? Because if you see me do one thing, you see me do everything. So,
yeah.
if what I'm noticing now is that I changed a couple of things this week as far as my schedule is concerned from working out in the gym. This is my first week where I went on to, like, a new supplement program, and I ordered something last week, and I've been trying it out this week. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't notice, like, my presence, my ability to focus was affected this week a bit.
Better
on
or
that.
worse?
At times it's really good. Like, if I'm in the mornings and after I work out, but I'm noticing now that more I'm taking a nap in the afternoon, and it's like, and I'm feeling this like about 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a little bit of a slump, and then I bump out of that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I'm thinking is to take a look at. And this came up last night in the conversation about a transition period where, you're not, maybe there was a deadline that got passed, or maybe there was a couple of things that I didn't fit into my schedule. Maybe there was a few things that I normally do, but I don't always do. And I was sharing about this actually this last night, was that during these times, it's so easy for me to keep a routine. It's so easy for me to stay on course when I have everything that I want,
Yeah.
But when I decide that I'm going to add something or shift things up, because a routine is nothing more than another automatic.
Yeah.
It could be a more supportive automatic. It could be an automatic,
more functional, more productive.
Right, but it doesn't change the fact that you're basically seeking comfort. Because I find comfort in routine. And that's what I've been asking.
But you're not alone. It's extreme. It is a human being. If you take a child, they thrive in routine. We are not different. We're just bigger versions.
So why don't we? I'm going to talk about this a little bit on the other side of this break, and we'll come back with some different energy. We just checked in. That was our weekly check-in. This is like, hey,
listen, we're keeping it real with you.
We're keeping it absolutely
letting
real.
You see. And I want to just say something before we even go to the break. 6 months ago, I would have shown up here and pretended that, like, what just happened didn't happen. My work is to show up authentically to you. I actually had somebody say, "Oh my God, it was so nice to see you vulnerable because I always think your life is so perfect." I was stunned when I heard that. I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm not doing a good enough job showing that I'm a real human being and that this, we really go through it." And speaking about it always and having the ability to spin it because I'm in it to learn and grow, not to stay in it, is a really big deal. So I was present here with you. Like, I don't suffer the same as you because we're two different human beings and we sit in two different chairs in two extremely different capacities. But I feel it.
All right,
So,
we'll be right back.
Thanks.
Farrow Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show.
With Jay and Janine, give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
And welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show. I want to thank everybody who's writing in on Facebook right now. One person just said, "Hey, thanks for keeping it real." That's what we're doing here. I mean, somebody just wrote in, "What's your purpose in life every day?" And then he says, "I know it's not integrity," which is interesting because, I mean, that's like...
Well, I'd really love to know what the gentleman means by that, because you don't just throw out something like that and don't back it up with something substantive.
Well,
because that's just...
So, getting back to this idea of... Speaking of integrity, all right, where do we go from here? Why do how do you regroup? Like now setting things on the table. All right, we've showed up. We walked through it. We came. We let it out on the table. All right, now going.
Neither of us were particularly up for it, but it's not a question.
And I wanted to start this segment off with a little bit of celebration. I just found out that my mom got out of the hospital.
Yes,
okay.
Sonia Farrow.
So my mom was in the hospital
made a
for
sign for you.
Right, my mom was in the hospital for 10 days. She went out to Colorado for a vacation, and she got altitude sickness, I think, when then it affected her AFib, and then she was in the hospital. And then
she actually had a blood clot in her heart,
and then she had some kind of infection in her arm. They thought was caused by the IV. So she's been going through it. Anyway, she just wrote that she's been going shopping and that she's out of the
clutches of the hospital,
and now she's doing better.
Yeah.
So that's a win. Another win. I might as well just talk about some of the wins that have come up. I mean, another win is I'm enjoying a new relationship.
Yes.
And having a lot of fun and connection and so and what's amazing about that, and it really ties into this, it's like when things are new in your life, I mean, there's going to be a shakeup in your life. I mean, there's going to be a shakeup, and I expect it. And it's not that it's all bad, but it's basically about noticing the other parts of my life and saying, okay, if I want to have it all, what does all look like? What do I want? And then becoming intentional about my schedule, becoming intentional about what I want to create, being intentional about the commitments that I have, and
it's learning to manage and grow into a new space.
Right.
It doesn't happen overnight. It's something that gets to be adjusted and readjusted. And I think that what we notice a lot of times when there's change of any kind, whether it's a new experience like you're having, or it's something, just anything, there's a little inflexibility, because we notice that we tend to be a little inflexible because we rely upon what's known. So it's making room for things that are a little less known, and it's really opening yourself up to possibilities. And sometimes when you're rigorous in control, it's a thing. What are you?
No, I'm listening to you, and I was thinking about this control and being rigorous. So I just have to say, I'm just going to clear the energy. So someone writes into Facebook and they say something about like that I'm not in integrity, and I'm just going to tell the person right now that you scheduled a lunch with me to show up in my office, and we had a schedule, and then you didn't show up for that lunch, and now it's like I just wanted to check in with you about that, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you about that and see how we go forward to develop in our relationship. So. That's I just wanted to clear that. And that's the first time on this show, which is a win too, that I actually addressed somebody on Facebook that was like saying like some things that, just.
Well, they seem to be unfounded if they're not willing to have a conversation. So,
Okay, so back to life. Back to what are we going to do?
well, so at the top, Jay and I, look, again, we go through our very different things, but, I go back when things go wrong. I go back to basics. That's where I go. Like, where in the foundation are the basics not being met? Because the truth is now there's such elevation. The truth, we spend a lot of time in the office. It's strategy. It's this. It's that. It's super amazing, massive brain power kind of stuff. But where I think we get lost is basics and the fundamental rigor of our schedule and how we run the office to make sure that we are super faithful to the timelines that this industry demands
Okay,
of
wow.
us.
So you're bringing
and
up-
so that means, though, like, for example, in this business, the dockets, you got to live and die by them.
Okay, so aside from, but what's interesting is you're bringing up this concept, because we were talking about our momentum program with our coach Donnell. Nice, thank you for this last week. Oh my God, it feels like it was
I
a
know,
couple days ago. But one of the things that I said about the trainings that we're looking to design and put on is the concept of rigor and discipline that creates the space that allows
And the safety.
that allows transformation to happen. Okay, when I was waking up, when I was doing the 3:45 in the morning and eating the 6 meals a day, and even when I'm doing it right now with all of the supplements I'm taking, the 6 meals a day, and then the regular schedule with everything that I have up to, it is now forcing me to be disciplined from the time that I make my bed every single day. Everything that I'm doing in my life, it's the discipline that creates the practice, which creates the performance, which creates the excellence in my life. And I agree with you. I mean, it goes back to the fundamentals,
It is.
and it goes back to the when I'm practicing the piano, it comes down to slowing it down.
Yep.
Till you can play it perfectly as slow as you can. And if it
Yep.
means that you have to play one hand at a time for a little bit, it means you got to play one hand at a time for a little bit.
It's so true, and I'm so happy that you brought that analogy, because I too am taking piano lessons, and so I, of course, wanted to get way ahead of myself and start doing some right and left hand thing. I'm right hand dominant, so that's a no-brainer. But then doing them together, and I realized that until I'm really, really good with one, and then maybe really, really good with the other, like, I get to take the time. I don't. And bringing it back to what we're experiencing and the real experiences, we don't take the time either sometimes. Because again, we're into some really high level, amazing practice and really employing a lot of creativity. But it is all in the basics. Life in and of itself is really, really simple. We complicate it very much with all of our complications. But yeah, I see for us, and to your point with the piano, slowing it down sometimes. Like, your mom is a big fan of saying stop, drop, and roll, and you've become a really big fan of stop, drop, and roll. And I see, like, when you mention that, we get out of sorts and these kind of things happen, even though we're, like, so many other things are going so well, these kind of things happen when we get away from our basics.
So when you're talking about really feeling like it's time to, when everything else is leveling up, it's that time to actually now no longer have any question about how you play.
Right.
Because it's like, if you're playing the game, like, there's always 2 minutes left and you're down a touchdown, you're going to be a successful person. I was listening to Tony Robbins this morning, and I've gone back to listening to tapes. I've gone back to listening to podcasts. I've gone back, and this is recent. And his thing the number one thing he said is that there's never a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. And he said that resourcefulness is the number one thing that we all have. I mean, that is the ability to be resourceful, and how well you play that is going to determine how successful you are. Because he says you might have tried everything that that didn't work, but it's the fact that that's why you're not successful. I mean, and so.
Wait, say that again.
In other words, he said, I hear people say that I fail, I tried everything. Yeah, you tried everything except for the thing that actually worked.
Right.
You know,
and going back to Edison.
But being resourceful, resourceful is, he's like, love is a resource.
Yeah,
Listening is a resource.
Yeah, it is.
Being patient is a resource.
Yes, it is.
You know, being honest, being authentic. These are all resources.
Yeah.
Because he was saying something, if you needed the money.
Forgiveness is a resource.
You could get right. I mean, all of the things that we get for free are actually our greatest resources. Yeah. Everything that we're blessed with as just being a human being, you know, that we don't even think of. I mean, when I was talking to another business owner about what their plan was the other day, and they were talking about money. Okay, it was one of our clients, and I realized in that moment that they believe that money. They said that like, I don't have any, and I said that's not where you're at, because you really think that money is the resource, and it's not.
No.
Okay, being creative to create that resource, whatever what you need, because what could you do? You could ask somebody for the money, right? You go to a bank and ask for it. You can open another credit card. You can sell something that you don't have. I have people that Uber that get a job at Uber, and they for a couple hours a day they do the Uber Lyft thing.
They make it happen.
They make it happen. No different than what we have here, because what happened, and I'm looking at this from a bird's eye view and kind of pulling back for a little bit, is where we were a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. And this came up to me as we're talking the other day. I walked into court, and they have the plaintiff and the defendant side, right? Yeah. And I walked to the defendant side, and I'm the plaintiff. Because I'm used to,
right.
I'm so used
You're
to
so
playing.
Used to being on the defense.
Playing on the defense.
Wow.
And for 11 years,
huge?
80% or 90% of my practice was trial after trial in foreclosure defense. Yep. Now I got tremendous trial experience, okay, during that time period, but that is a distinction from doing plaintiff's cases. Yeah. And so in the last year and a half, we have gone from the party that usually doesn't have to ask. The plaintiff is the one that sets up the deadlines to create the conferences and stuff like that. We've switched to the other side.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for us to blame, and it does suck for whatever happened. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's also, hey, it's a growing pain, because you're now shifting your mindset. Right. It's like it's not undifferent than Rocky Balboa, who had to actually fight right-handed in the second movie because his eye was messed up. Yeah. Okay, Mick made him train right-handed. And he said, we're going to keep your left hand. At the right time, we're going to switch it up. It's never been done in history. But what we need to do first is we need to get you to fight right-handed. And for a while, it was painful to do that. I know that some people that immigrate to the United States, they learn English. He said it hurts to think in English.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
It hurts to think in English.
Absolutely.
But when you're learning a different language, being a plaintiff or a defendant, and if you're in business, sometimes you're the vendor, and sometimes you're
the buyer.
You're the supplier.
Yeah.
You're doing the materials. You could be a lot of different functions, and each one of those functions is a mindset. There are mindsets of how you perform and what you're up to and what you're supposed to do. If you're going to shift your business and create the life that you want, you're going to start shifting out of that mindset. And I'll tell you, the biggest shift that I've had, and now that I'm going to share this with you on the other side of the break, is my mindset as it comes to marriage, and my mindset is having a kid. And I want to touch on that because it fits in exactly to what we're talking about here.
Okay,
because we're talking about the greater shift of a mindset to a. Right?
This is a huge thing.
We'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay.
Farrow Law Firm. standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrelllawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrell Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show.
With Jay and Janine, give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
And welcome back to the Momentum
Welcome
Mindset Show.
back, everyone.
As the universe would have it, we're actually talking about mindset right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like for real.
Please go. Please. I did not know you were going to talk about this, but I'm so pleased because I really want to hear it, of course, and I have so many things to share about.
So we
this.
were talking before the break about how the law firm has shifted, and now we're doing a bunch of plaintiffs work as opposed to defense work in what we're up to. So that as a mindset is also
And it
requires a different
practice.
skill set. Let me
Yeah.
say that again. A shift in mindset is require you to practice a different skill set. And the skill set of being a plaintiff's lawyer requires all kinds of new types of calendaring and new types of tickler systems, new types of policies and procedures, and all of that stuff. And then just when you think you've covered it all, there's a couple things that
more.
you get to learn about how to do that. And now thinking about, more of what exactly how this came to pass. Okay, I see it. I see it. And the new skill sets are not difficult. But getting past...
But they require practice.
I'll tell you what, for the last, what it was, for 20 minutes or maybe an hour that we just went through what we went through, that hour used to be 3 weeks. The hour that you just saw, like, live on radio about what we just went through, about kind of feeling bad about some small thing that happened in the office, that has now passed, and now I'm in possibility. That's the momentum mindset. That is really what we've created. What I've created for myself in the last year and a half of the discipline has created the ability to now shift out of where I was, saying, okay, that blame, shame, stuff like that is going to show up. If you're a human being, congratulations. You're going to feel what I just felt when your business doesn't do something, or something happens in your family, that something that you're committed to doesn't happen. There's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up. That's survival. That's your automatic. What's the blessing of transformation is to go through that piece, let it flow through you, and know that possibilities on the other side of that.
Absolutely.
Now, we're talking about mindset as it relates to business, but last couple of days, I've been invited to the conversation with the person I'm in a relationship with about starting a family, creating a home, and having a baby one day. Mm-hmm. And for me, I always wanted kids, but I never thought I was dad material. And I was like, who would, in their right mind, I wrote this on Facebook last night, ever think that I'd be dad material?
Well, that's what you see about yourself.
But that was in the past, and I had not thought about it for some time until I entered into this conversation. And the morning after, I had read something that she wrote, and I was like, And it was in the morning. I was like, you know what? I'd be a really good dad. And I started to connect with this feeling of masculinity, of manhood, and I felt that commitment of being a husband and father. And I was smiling, I was happy, thinking about that possibility. Because I've done what I've done, I now live in opportunity and possibility.
Yep.
And the opportunity and possibility exist because I keep this momentum mindset. I keep the mindset of growth, and I don't beat myself up anymore like I did. I don't take that sledgehammer to myself. As I was sharing with you, I wanted to take it to a building because I know what that feels like. Yeah. My parents had a building, so you all know, and we had to take it down with a sledgehammer. Thanks, Dad. So it actually happened. But I don't want to do that to myself anymore. Yeah. Actually, what I've done is to pick up the feather and maybe sometimes a ruler, but not a sledgehammer. Yeah. And those are all wins.
That's a huge win.
I thought to myself, I'm like, wait a second. I'm living in this world where someone looks at me and says, "You're a possibility for that for me," and
That's
I'm
so
thinking to
interesting.
myself, that's probably the most beautiful thing that I've ever heard, is that someone looking at me with the possibility that I might be a future, and
What does that say to you though, Jake? Because I think that, it's first of all, it's very beautiful, hands down. But it's interesting because I think that you may have been the only person in the world who thought that you maybe weren't. So that's a very interesting thing to hear from this side of it.
I was
Because
based
that
on
is
the
a story,
evidence of
but that's a story
disconnection.
that you created for yourself.
Right.
It's not necessarily true.
There's so many stories wrapped up in that. You brought
Yeah.
something up today. You brought
Yeah.
something up today about our parents, like our respective
my
parents,
gosh, yeah.
and the stories that they. But you said specifically that parents, had this right and wrong. They're right, and they had it. My stories about being ready to have a child included like being completely ready to have a child. Like my dad is like Mr. Get It Done, follow through, no nonsense,
Mr. Responsible.
Mr. Responsible, be a stand for all of that.
Yeah.
And that creates a lot of also of I'm right about this is how it has to be in
Yep.
order for all of that to happen. And got it. Love him very, very much. And that put into my head, I'm not ready yet. The mindset of I'm not ready yet.
Right.
I'm not ready yet to be a
Right.
husband. I'm not ready yet to be a dad.
So-
And my world though was disconnected, disloyal to myself. I mean, I was not being husband material.
Right.
I wasn't being commitment.
Because you didn't think you were.
Right.
So how could you
right.
be it?
And so
Right.
after this period of time where I got invited to the conversation of possibility, and that I'll invent a neutral, and then I could reinvent my life and my world as I would want it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That started me on the path to actually wake up, a few years later, and actually a year and a half into this journey, and saying, I'd be a really good dad, from the perspective of I could do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And I have some really good role models to do it because my dad's, I'm looking to him.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Yeah,
to my
absolutely.
grandfathers who I had the privilege to know. Both my I had a
right, that
Zeta
is a
and a
privilege.
Morfar. My Morfar is that's mother's father in Swedish.
Yeah.
And then my Zeta, which is Yiddish for grandfather. So both of those men were the embodiment of commitment and stand. And my grandparents were, I come from just knowing the importance of family.
Yeah.
And that's one thing my mom is like huge on, and
She really is. Your mom is super in touch with cousins and with this one and
So I
with
started
that one.
thinking
It's
about
like
all this
so
stuff.
amazing.
I started thinking about all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually feeling into this, this feeling, and it's so good. It's
Yeah, it is so good.
it's so good, and it's not different than what I'm going through. And think, if you would have told me 3 or 4 weeks ago, hey Jay, what's your conversation about that? What I said, I've said this to people. I'm in this building phase where I think that that would just be, that I'm not there yet, but because I'm building, I'm creating, and I wouldn't have time for all this stuff. And now what happened was something shifted, something moved. It's like they say that there's only a few molecules that actually move before an earthquake. There's like a point where literally there's just a few molecules that move a certain way,
Right.
and that actually is a tipping point to have an earthquake, to have a seismic shift.
Right.
And I believe that the same thing in consciousness. You do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and then eventually something shifts, something magical happens, and then that allows for the creation of the space.
Well,
and it's
Could you say it's something like it's open where before it wasn't?
yes.
And I think that is like one of the hugest things. But to your point about, the way we see ourselves, it's such a huge thing. Because part of the work that I'm doing on my own and extremely committed to is challenging the way I see myself, challenging all of the stories that I created about me that I was living into.
What are
So I
some of
could
these
be
stories?
right. So, for example, I'll share the one with I'm not good enough to be the lead singer. I'm a backup singer. What a bunch of bollocks! It's nonsense.
Right.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
What qualifies one to be one? And it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm calling myself on it. Like, okay, where did that come from? Why do I believe that? And does that serve me? Just like why would you never have been like dad material? What made the material difference in 3 weeks? Nothing. You were always that person. You just weren't open. You were always that person. I was always the lead singer. I just wasn't open to the possibility. And so I think that is part of this is really an interesting thing, because we get to call ourselves out on what do we say that we believe about each other, and how right are we willing to be about it?
Well,
Because you
say
could have
believing-
carried on with that same story. I'm building, I don't have time, da-da-da. You could have.
I could have, except for one thing. More and more, and I think the same for you because I see it. My inner truth cannot lie anymore. In other words, there's so much of the inside of the bowl. I call it like this. I clean the inside of my bowl every single day. From the time that I make my oatmeal in the morning, or clean or make my bed, or clean my room, and journal, and go to work, and committed to excellence and integrity and commitment and contribution and connection. You do that every single day, and do that every single day. What ends up happening is that my light is like I can no longer not admit what's true for me.
Yeah.
And what's true for me,
Same.
and not just admit what's true for me, but also want it in my life with a desire that I'm going after this because I have a passion for it. And this is what's coming up for me and family, what's coming up for me and the law firm that we're creating. And it's just a matter, it invites additional conversations, it invites pain, it invites
discomfort.
But it's kind of pain that you get in yoga, the kind of pain that you're going to experience, when you're working out in the gym. I mean, it's that discomfort of change, of opening up your body. Every morning I go to the gym, and it's like there's about 10 or 15 minutes in the beginning. It's like, man,
what am I doing
here? I want to go home. I want to go home. And even it starts way before, because I know that there's a moment
of that resistance that you bump up against,
but
that
there's
stinks.
a moment where I know that I've broken through that, where I've cracked my body open for the day. And that is so symbolic to everything else, because I can sit there and lie in my stories, and lie in the I'm not that material, or I'm building a life, and I'm not open to this right now, because if I do this, I can't have this.
Yeah. That if either or, it doesn't exist. Why can't it be and?
It requires what you say. It requires that openness and practicing openness, and it requires.
Yeah.
I posted this. I said, you know what? Sometimes you don't know the power of believing. Like, if you believe in someone before they believe in themselves. You know, like, and you said that you believed in me before. My mom believed in me before. I mean, I have a lot of people that believed in me, and there's some people that I listen to. And there's some part of me that was like, they must be saying something. And then I don't know if I've looked in the mirror enough times, or if I think eventually, after I kept on doing the stuff and showing up for myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm here. I'm actually able to say, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Not every single time, but it's going to happen over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what they say self-esteem is, which is
self-esteem.
Keeping
That's what I was talking about.
Keeping promises to yourself is self-esteem, not keeping promises to others. It's actually to yourself, because you're depositing into that well of knowingness that you've got what it takes to show up for you, and then by extension for others. So it's a really deep conversation, and I love the conversation, because you're going through challenging the way you saw yourself, and I am too.
What is another one of your stories?
Another one of my stories is that good girls don't win.
Let's take one last break and I want to hear about this one.
Yeah,
I want to hear about this one. We'll
this
be
is a good one.
right back after this. Good girls don't win. Okay.
Farrow Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show.
With Jay and Janine, give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show. And
we want to give a quick shout
Yes.
out to Mira Kuti, who is our law clerk, and to our friend. I don't know if we wanted to our friend for helping us make sure that what needed to be filed in court was so filed. Thank you. Appreciate you very much.
Building that team,
building that team, exactly.
and then getting through it as a team. You're the average of the 5 people that you spend most time with, and you start off the show one way, and then you get to a point where you just realize how blessed you are and how blessed I am. And it's like I think about my mom got out of the hospital, and I do have a beautiful law firm, and I do have a beautiful team. I now have a beautiful girlfriend, and I have all of these things as a reflection for who I am and how I show up. And I got to say, the one blessing of this journey, and I can't say it enough, is how quickly I move through the unpleasantness, the uncomfortability. I mean, walking through something instead of running away from it is transformation.
It really is.
Walking through it and knowing that in about 15 minutes I'm going to be okay. Because that's really what it takes, about 15 minutes to an hour. And after that period passes,
even some say that's too long.
Yeah.
But that's that's a practice that we get to do. But before the commercial, I want to get to this because I think it would really be in contribution to people who are listening. So
Good
before
girls
we
finish.
went, good girls finish last. What do I mean by that? I never really truly connected to the fact that I am actually a very ambitious person. I'm a very ambitious person. I'm a relatively emotionally highly intelligent person to an extent. And I love learning. I love people, and I love connecting. But I didn't know how to make all of that work in concert to create success for myself. And part of my story was, I had a different story. I was in a very long-term relationship when I was a very young woman, and I thought that person was going to be my husband until I realized it was not to be, and the whole thing. And that sort of sent me, I became very lost from that because that was a story for 7 years, from the time I was 18 years old till the time I was 25. And so it kind of put me off kilter. The other thing I bought into was that good girls don't break people's hearts. So I punished myself for a really long time.
Good girls don't break people's hearts?
Yeah.
Is that what that? Okay.
Yeah. So I collapsed, making the choice to leave that relationship until I was no longer a good person because I had hurt my ex-boyfriend. And so I had put the story of that, and then I'm too nice to really make it because I don't have what it takes. I'm too nice. I don't have the ambition, or I have the ambition, but I don't have that really, really sharp edge to make it work. Well, I got to say, especially lately, I listen to myself on the phone and I'm like, I can't believe I ever doubt myself. What the hell is wrong with me? Not because I'm so great, but because I'm allowing myself to actually shine. I say what I mean what I say. And I'm really beginning to be super clear about who's in charge of my life. And it is breaking through all of those stories of who I think I am or who I thought I was and putting it all into this really neat bow of good girl. And being not collapsing that I am a good person, even though I've made mistakes. I'm a really good person, even though I have hid. I am a really good person, even though it took me longer than most would have patience for to figure it out. I'm still Janine. I'm still worthy, valuable, and a huge contribution to everything that I do. So my problem was what I think a lot of people's problems are, and even you shared this a little bit, We're constantly waiting for the outside world to reflect that back to us. It really takes a lot of work to go inside and you be your own validation. You be your own barometer. Like, I have a different conversation. I've always known that I will be an exceptional wife because I love exceptionally. I know that. That is a place where I have a lot of self-esteem and a lot of self-confidence. I know that I will or might be or could be an exceptional mother. No question. So it's where, but I knew that already. I didn't need anybody to tell me. But what I was seeking from the outside world was that I could be a good girl and still really ambitious. That I could be who I am and still really achieve what I want. That was harder for me. I had to come to that. Really, I had to give myself permission. I was waiting for everybody else to give me permission.
What else about being a good girl? Like what would be some characteristics that you're specifically talking about? Like you say, good girls finish last. Like ones that are like that don't use their voice.
Yes.
Ones that allow somebody else to sit at the head of the table.
Yes.
That ones that
ones that would give space for others' breakthroughs, which is great, but then not say, now it's my turn. I listened, and now it's my go. I have a go. So I confused. I confused maybe polite, like an over sense of politeness, with the inability to speak up for myself, and it has cost me. It has cost me dearly. But I'm so glad that I caught it. Like, in other words, it will actually be the redeeming factor that could salvage certainly myself, my future, my career, everything, and even relationships. Because how can somebody know that they're missing it if I don't tell them?
you don't speak up.
Right. And it's too easy when you've lived 40 something years of not speaking up. It's too easy.
What just came up for me is
not.
like how much of this do we carry off that the children should be seen but
Not
not heard.
heard.
But then
I
at
grew
the end
up
of
like that.
But wait a second. I'm 44 years old.
Right.
I don't feel any different than I used to play in the schoolyard when it comes to things. So it's like when we're told and we're programmed, you should be seen and not heard.
Yep.
Isn't that really what we're saying when we get to be adults? Until you just like you can't handle
You
it
can't
anymore?
handle it anymore. Like, literally, my inner something inside of me is like literally breaking free. I mean, I went through something, maybe it was about 4 weeks ago now, where I was just suffering from a tremendous amount of anxiety, and I couldn't explain it. I did not know what was going on with me, and I got really, really quiet with myself. And I shared this on a friend's thing on Facebook last night, which was that I got quiet with myself, and I said, okay, Janine, what do you need in this moment? And it led me right back to music. It led me right back to music. You need to hear yourself. You need to express. You need to get out. You need to do that. Go do that. So I called up my guy and I did it. I went and I did it. And I haven't stopped since. And since that day, something comes up for me daily. Okay, no, this is next. This is next. Nope, that's what you used to do. This is next. Oh, you didn't speak up then? Okay, no problem. But now this is next. So it's like, again, every single day in the past 4 weeks, I've been challenged to who I am. I've said no more than I've ever said before in my life in the last 4 weeks. No, I can't do that. Or no, I don't. No, I have another commitment. Or no, this, that, or that. I mean, it's just those things. And just growing into like who I really am and being okay with it. Not because you say so, but because I say so. And I think that that's really the distinction that I'm walking in right now.
I was just thinking that, some years from now, we created a show here and our work really is to speak where we're at. We happen to be almost the same age. We happen to be, kind of in different, kind of the same points in our life in many respects, mirrors. And we made a commitment never to BS the audience. We made a commitment to speak from where we're at, not sell success, not sell anything. Actually, no matter, like I said last week, I mean, we pay for these shows. What we're offering is contribution about, hey, this is how we see it. This is what we're going through. In other words, we bought into what some of the people at the top of the seminars were talking about. We bought into there's a greater life out there.
Yeah.
I bought into that you can recreate the story of your life. I still believe in that with my entire heart. But this is what it looks like.
Yep.
I mean, this is exactly what it looks like in the middle of where we started to where we might be one day. And I think that as I'm thinking about this is that you're always in the middle. It's always the messy middle. And
we talk about it. We're never done. We're always growing and expanding.
And so we thank you guys for listening to us, and I hope that you connect with us. I hope that this is meaningful to you. We really love hearing from you. We thank you for all your support. Mom, I'm so happy to hear you're out of the hospital. And
yay, Sonia.
We will see you next week, same time, same station. Thanks.
Everybody have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you for listening to the Momentum Mindset Show. For your hosts, Jay and Janine, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being real, authentic, and honest.
If you'd like to reach us, please contact us on our Facebook page, The Momentum Mindset Show, or on our office phone line, which is 954-559-6987.
We are stronger together.
And remember, keep going.